My cheating wife poisoned my sister against me. Years later, after seeing her true colors, my sister finally came back. I'm 30 now, but when I was 25, I married the woman of my dreams, Martha. We met in college in the campus library. Our relationship felt perfect in every way. We shared the same values, the same dry sense of humor, and we both wanted the same future. A small house with a garden, 2 kids, maybe a dog. We had all the pieces of a fairy tale. Or so I thought. Everything seemed so perfect at first. I was focused on my career in marketing, and Martha had a promising future in corporate law. We were the couple others looked up to, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. But then life threw us a curveball when Martha found a new job in a different city. The opportunity was too good to pass up: higher salary, better benefits, more room for growth. I supported her decision completely, found a new job myself, and we moved, thinking this was just another adventure in our shared story. I can't say exactly when things started to shift. It was gradual, almost imperceptible at first, like watching a shadow slowly creep across a wall. Little things began to bother me. Martha would stay late at work, taking fewer calls from me, and would be distant when I tried to talk to her. She stopped sharing the small details of her day, those little moments that had always made us feel connected. But I chalked it up to stress, assuming it was just the pressure of a new job. I wasn't ready to believe that there was something else at play. One Saturday morning, while cleaning out my home office, I found a strange message on Martha's phone. She had left it charging on my desk, and it lit up with a notification. The message was from a coworker named James, and it seemed a little too friendly for my comfort. "Miss your smile already. Monday feels too far away." When I confronted Martha about it, she became defensive, her voice rising an octave as she insisted there was nothing going on. She reassured me that everything was fine, that James was just an overly friendly colleague, and I trusted her, even though a nagging voice in my head told me otherwise. That was the first crack in our foundation, a hairline fracture that would eventually spread until everything crumbled. What came next would leave me completely shattered. One night, while looking for our marriage certificate for a mortgage application, I found a letter that sent my heart plummeting. It was handwritten on expensive stationery, tucked away in a folder marked personal documents. It was a confession, poured out in Martha's familiar, slanted handwriting. She admitted to having an affair with James, someone she had been seeing for months behind my back. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. When I confronted her that evening, she didn't even try to deny it. She sat on our gray couch, the one we had spent months saving for, and admitted to everything. She said she was sorry, that she never intended to hurt me, that it had just happened. But how do these things just happen? How does someone accidentally fall into an affair that lasted months? Martha begged me to forgive her, to give our marriage another chance. Through tears, she promised it was a mistake, that she was confused, that she wanted to make it right. She spoke about couples counseling, about starting fresh, about rebuilding what we had lost. But sitting there in our living room, surrounded by photos of happier times, I knew some things couldn't be fixed. She had shattered the one thing I valued above all else: trust. The foundation of our relationship had crumpled like a house of cards, and no amount of promises could rebuild it. After a lot of heartache and sleepless nights, I asked her to leave. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quiet. Martha didn't fight me on anything, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps because she had already checked out long ago. In the wake of our breakup, I moved into a small apartment across town, throwing myself into work and surrounding myself with friends who had supported me through everything. But slowly, things were looking up. I was learning to move forward, to trust my own judgment again. And that's when the real bombshell hit. My sister, Vanessa, had always been close to Martha. They were friends before I even met her, having bonded during their freshman year of college. I had hoped that despite the divorce, our families would still maintain some semblance of civility. However, when the divorce was finalized, I began to notice something unsettling. Vanessa seemed to take Martha's side with an intensity that caught me off guard. She would visit Martha regularly, have long phone calls with her, and constantly check up on me in a way that felt less like sisterly concern and more like surveillance. Her questions always seemed loaded. Have you thought about giving Martha another chance? Or are you sure you're not being too harsh? It felt like she was more concerned about Martha's feelings than the fact that her own brother had been betrayed. As time passed, Vanessa's loyalty to Martha became even more apparent. She started to distance herself from me, defending Martha's actions and trying to justify what had happened. People make mistakes, she'd say, her voice dripping with judgment. Marriage isn't easy. Maybe if you had been more attentive. I was floored. How could she choose Martha over me? I was her brother, her flesh and blood. We had grown up together, shared secrets, protected each other. But here she was, choosing the woman who had destroyed my life. One night, after a particularly difficult family dinner where Vanessa had spent the entire time subtly defending Martha, I confronted her in my parents' driveway. How can you still be friends with someone who hurt me so deeply? I demanded, my voice cracking with emotion. Someone who betrayed not just me, but our entire family's trust? Her response knocked the wind out of me. She crossed her arms, leveling me with a cold stare. It's not my fault that you couldn't make your marriage work, she spat. You were too controlling. Martha deserves happiness, and I'm not going to turn my back on her. Then came the accusation that made my blood run cold. Besides, she continued, you were the one who cheated first. Martha forgave you, wanted to reconcile, but you left her for that girl at your office. The accusation hung between us like poison. I could hardly believe what I was hearing, not just the lie itself, but the absolute conviction in Vanessa's voice as she said it. What girl? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you talking about? Vanessa rolled her eyes, a gesture so dismissive it felt like a physical blow. Don't play innocent. Martha told me everything about your affair with a co-worker from the marketing department. How you two would stay late at the office, how you'd text constantly. She found the messages on your phone. The absurdity of it all hit me then, not just the lie, but how thoroughly Martha had manipulated my own sister against me. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Show me, I demanded. Show me one piece of evidence. One text. One photo. Anything that proves what you're saying. Vanessa faltered for the first time. I don't need to see anything. Martha wouldn't lie about this. I laughed, but it was a hollow sound. No, but I would. Your own brother. I pulled up my photos, scrolling to the images I'd rather forget, the screenshots of Martha's messages with James, the letter I'd found. You want evidence? Here it is. Everything Martha did, documented right here. But you don't want to see it, do you? Because it's easier to believe her lies than face the truth. She turned away, refusing to look at my phone. I don't want to see your manipulated photos. Martha told me you'd try something like this. The realization hit me then, how completely Martha had poisoned my relationship with my sister. She hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd systematically destroyed my family connections, turning my own sister against me with carefully crafted lies. You know what, Vanessa? I said, my voice trembling with emotion. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep fighting to prove my innocence to someone who's already decided I'm guilty. You're my sister, but right now, that doesn't seem to mean anything to you. The words felt like glass in my throat, but I forced them out anyway. Until you're ready to see the truth, really see it, I can't have you in my life. I won't keep defending myself against lies, especially not to my own sister. I walked away that night, leaving Vanessa standing in our parents' driveway. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was necessary. Sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to walk away from the people who refuse to see your pain. Months passed like seasons changing, gradual yet inevitable. I threw myself into rebuilding my life, piece by piece. Then, one afternoon almost a year later, I received a call from my parents. Their voices carried an urgency that made my stomach twist. They wanted to meet at their house. Needed to meet, they emphasized. I hadn't spoken to Vanessa in almost a year, and the thought of seeing her again made my hands shake. But something in my mother's voice convinced me to agree. When I arrived, Vanessa was already there, looking smaller somehow, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and her usually perfect makeup was smudged. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw Martha yesterday," Vanessa began, her fingers nervously shredding a paper napkin. "But not how I expected to see her." She took a shaky breath. "I was at cafe with some friends, and I saw her with Ryan." Ryan. The name hit me like a physical blow. Vanessa's boyfriend of 3 years, the guy she'd been talking about marrying. I watched as tears started rolling down my sister's cheeks. They were at a corner table, and she choked on the words. They were kissing. Not just a friendly peck. They were really kissing. When I confronted them, Martha just laughed. She actually laughed and said Ryan had been seeing her for months. The silence that followed was heavy with shared pain and realization. I reached across the table and took my sister's trembling hands in mine. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you." Martha, she was so convincing. She would cry about how much she missed you, how you had broken her heart. She made me feel like I had to protect her, like being your sister meant I had to choose between you. And I chose wrong. I chose so wrong. The sight stirred something deep within me. Not satisfaction at her finally seeing the truth, but a profound sadness for the time we'd lost, the trust that had been fractured. "Martha did what she does best," I said softly, squeezing Vanessa's hands. "She found our vulnerabilities and used them against us. With me, it was my trust in our marriage. With you, it was your loyalty to her as a friend." Oh God, I became her defender. I turned against my own brother because I thought I was fighting for love and second chances. The irony of it all hung heavy in the air. Here we were, two people who loved each other deeply, who had been manipulated into becoming strangers. The realization seemed to hit Vanessa all at once, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I got up and moved to her side of the table, pulling her into a hug. She buried her face in my shoulder, her body shaking with sobs. "I don't know how to fix this," she whispered into my shirt. "I don't know if you can ever forgive me." The truth was, I didn't know either. The pain of her betrayal ran deep, intertwined with the larger trauma of Martha's deception. But sitting there in our parents' kitchen, holding my crying sister, I realized something important about forgiveness. Sometimes it's not about erasing the past, but about choosing to build something new from the rubble of what was broken. Over the following weeks, Vanessa and I began the delicate work of rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't as simple as accepting an apology or pretending the hurt had never happened. Trust, I'd learned, was like a delicate piece of pottery. Once broken, it could be repaired, but the cracks would always tell a story. The process of forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or even fully understanding why things happened the way they did. It was about choosing to move forward, about recognizing that the love between siblings, built over years of shared experiences, inside jokes, and mutual protection, was stronger than any external force trying to break it. Today, our relationship is different from what it was before Martha entered our lives. The innocence is gone, replaced by something more complex, but perhaps more valuable, a tested, resilient bond that survived one of the greatest challenges siblings can face. We've learned to be more direct with each other, to question assumptions, and to prioritize our relationship over outside influences. Martha's final gift to us, ironically, was showing us the true strength of family bonds. Not the blind, unquestioning loyalty she had demanded, but the kind that can withstand betrayal, acknowledge hurt, and still choose to love and forgive. It's a lesson that came at a heavy price, but one that transformed both of us in ways we never expected. In the end, this isn't just a story about betrayal and forgiveness. It's about the intricate dance between hurt and healing, about how the people who can wound us most deeply are often the ones who help us discover our greatest capacity for resilience and growth. Vanessa and I are closer now than we've ever been, not despite our shared pain, but because of how we chose to heal from it together. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.